Again, welcome everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Excited for this conversation. I'm Josh Caldwell. I am the business development executive for Mortenson, Salt Lake City. I'm also the prayers, that would be relevant. The program and events chair for NAIOP Utah board, and I'm really excited to be able to moderate this panel today to talk through what is Biohive, Bio Utah, and the greater bioscience, biotech industry here locally. As we get into this, a couple of housekeeping items really quickly. Want to make sure that everybody understands that this is an interactive conversation. We fully expect that you as an audience are going to participate as much as possible, and that means in a couple of different ways. As we're going through the conversation, please feel free to use the chat feature or the question and answer feature on Zoom to ask questions, make comments. We're going to do everything that we can to try and answer those through the program and at the end with some time dedicated to that. But also we're going to have a number of interactive polls scattered throughout the discussion as well. So when one of those polls appears on your screen, you'll have about 30 seconds to respond. We're really interested to get some feedback from you guys. So please don't hesitate to do that. And if you get them all right, you very well could be a lucky winner at the end of the program today. So pay attention. Let's see who's listening and answer those poll questions. So with that, as always, we need to give a quick shout out to all of NAIOP Utah's chapter sponsors. In the platinum category, we have Zions Bank. Thank you, Zions. In the silver, we have CBRE, Colliers, and Mortenson. And in the bronze category, we have Harris Company, Ballard Spar, Salt Lake City Global Logistics Center, Price Real Estate, and Hamilton Partners. And for today's title sponsor, we have Jade with FFKR Architects. We'd like to hear a little bit from FFKR today. Jade, go ahead.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Everyone hear me okay? I think that should be on everyone's morning coffee mug. Can you hear me okay? My name is Jade Turan, and I am head of business development for FFKR Architects. That is my day job. And I also sit on the board of the NAIOP Utah board with Lindsay and Josh. So that is a really, really fun position. I feel very fortunate to be part of this group. And with that, I get to brag about some of the very talented architects and planners and interior designers I get to work with. Quite visionaries. FFKR is Utah's largest architecture firm. We're about 180 plus people the last time I counted, with 67 licensed architects. And with that, we have about 13 different studios. So these are specialists within specialists. And the specialist pertaining to this group would be Mr. Eric Thompson. He is our senior principal in charge of our science and technology design studio. So they really specialize and focus on science and technology, biomedical instrument manufacturing, lab space, research and development facilities, clean room design. His core of professionals have really made science and laboratory facility design the focus of their careers. So he and his team are the experts among experts, because some of those spaces are quite complicated and sensitive. So we are so lucky to have him on our leadership team at FFKR. Most recently, his team has completed the BioFire headquarters up Research Park and the BioFire manufacturing facility under construction on their new 60-acre West Campus. So that company in particular is, doing really well. They're really excited about their new buildings. That manufacturing facility on their West Campus will be the first of at least 4 buildings and a parking structure to accommodate BioFire's massive growth. So really, again, I cannot, speak louder about the professionals and, the visionaries at FFKR Architects. If any of you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I sit on the NAIOP board, and I'm really excited for this discussion today. So thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you, Jade. And again, thank you, FFKR, for being today's title sponsor. With that, moving into the conversation, a couple of things for the audience. I'm betting most of you didn't know, but did you know that Utah is second in the nation for medical device employment concentration? And or did you know that that the bioscience industry in Utah contributes to over 8% of our total state's GDP? There's a lot to learn, I think, about what's happening in Utah as it relates to bioscience and biotech. And it's a really exciting time, especially all things considered in the environment that we find ourselves. So I think it couldn't be more timely to learn more about what's happening here in our industry, to learn more from Katelin Roberts, who is the Interim Director of Biohive, and Troy Hardy, who's the Senior Associate at Mountain West Commercial, to find more about what the industry looks like. To kick this off, we're going to start with a little teaser video. It is the world premiere, so buckle your seats, kids, and let's see what we have in store at Biohive.
Healthcare innovation impacts all of us. We're really ready to take an industry that is already growing fast, and we can take it to the next level and make Utah really one of the best in the country. And you can be a part of it too. You're part of Biohive.
When you think about what it takes to innovate in this specific industry, it takes a lot of infrastructure. So there's universities and hospitals, there's public policy. What Biohive is doing is really highlighting this vibrant part of the community here to make something break through and happen for the global patient population.
We have such strong private sector players coupled with these strong public partners that are all coming together to drive success in healthcare innovation.
The story of the Biohive is ultimately the story of us. It's a collective of companies across the state that represent the life science industry's ecosystem with one principle in mind, and that is how can we help solve not only our nation's healthcare problems, but the world's healthcare problems.
When we speak as one, when we work together for a common purpose, it will benefit all of the members of our industry. Biohive is the very thing that will help to foster that very cohesion we are trying to achieve.
The impact on public health is tremendous, not only for the way that you're going to engage with healthcare, but the opportunity of residents here to find jobs in these industries. It's about investing in human capital.
That's something we all have in common as part of the Biohive. Every company is either directly or indirectly working to improve the lives of people here in Utah, across our country, and around the world. There's nothing better that we could do.
Fantastic. Well done. And with that, Katelin, I want to introduce you to our audience today. Again, Katelin Roberts is here with us. She's the Interim Director of Biohive, and also Troy Hardy, Senior Associate with Mountain West Commercial. Guys, we're excited to have you. I hope you're as excited as we are to be here and have this conversation, and looking forward to hearing more about what you can tell us.
Thanks, Josh.
Yeah, thanks, Josh.
With that preview of Biohive, I want to kind of kick this off with you, Katelin, and put the ball in your court a little bit. Can you just give us just a high level, what is Biohive?
Sure. First, I want to say thank you for putting on this event. I think this is a great conversation to have because, without not only office space, but, lab space, we can't do our job. We can't come up with, these innovations. So, to your question about, what is Biohive? I think that video was great. It really talks about, all the exciting things going on in life sciences. And, in the next decade, we are poised in our industry to have a lot of growth. We're going to have exciting new developments and discoveries in life science and opportunities to improve human health in Utah. And, as it said, we're the fastest growing life science industry in the nation since 2012. So, Biohive is a branding initiative of BioUtah. So we are part of BioUtah, but we are funded and governed separately. So Biohive is really, we represent the life science and healthcare innovation ecosystem in Utah. So we are seeking to create a community and culture around the life science and healthcare innovation ecosystem in Utah. And what does that mean exactly? So we want to build a community because it takes a lot of players to create a life science company. There's a lot of people involved. There's a lot of infrastructure. It's definitely a team sport, and we want Biohive to be, the group that pulls all those people together. To get an ecosystem humming, you need infrastructure, you need industry, you need a talented workforce, you need academia, we need research partners, and you need government. So this is really a public-private partnership and leadership, and that will remain integral in continuing to grow and expand, this important scientific and economic development opportunities that exist in Utah. So we can do this with Biohive by sharing the stories of the companies and the people that are innovating within life sciences and healthcare innovation. We also want to be a connector to resources, for workforce development, for entrepreneurship, and for those economic development opportunities.
So appreciate that. And I need to ask you to drill down a minute. So there's a lot of really intelligent people in this audience, all specific to the real estate industry. I'm part of at least the latter half of that equation. Can you help me just really clearly understand what is that difference between Biohive and BioUtah, and how are the two distinct and how are they complementary?
Sure. No, I think it's a great question. And we want to, be really clear about the differences. So we are one organization, but BioUtah is, our trade organization for the life science industry. So they will really, their lane and their focus is working, with the legislature, making sure we're represented. You pay a membership, and they really are trying to, report back to industry on what's changed at the federal level, the state level, making sure we're represented. We're setting up a life science caucus right now. They do really important work. I work very closely with Katelin, who's, the head of BioUtah. We are technically set up as a subchapter of BioUtah. But our funding is separate. Our governance board is separate. Our governance board is half from industry, half from our public partners. And then in terms of what our focus is really more on branding our ecosystem and really trying to create that culture and community and trying to share the stories of the exciting technology and everything going on. So we have different lanes to drive in. And then in terms of, being a member of Biohive, there is no membership fee. You are a member of Biohive just by function of being in life sciences or being in healthcare innovation. The folks on this call, if you've ever, worked with a life science company, you're part of Biohive. The fact that you have worked within the halo effect of life sciences, makes you a member of this. And so I think that's why this conversation is important. These numbers are so big with, our industry. We're a top 3 industry in Utah. And part of that is because there is a big halo effect. We have a lot of manufacturing that backs life sciences. We have a big medical device, subsector here. And we have, big companies like BioFire. BioFire went from 300 employees to 3,000. These things can take off at escape velocity. And so we need big partners, that can be there to help us make these things happen. And that's why we really want to put, a wide net on our community. And so Biohive is that. So there's no membership. If you work, in life sciences or you support companies that work in life sciences, you're part of Biohive. So we really want people to embrace that and then engage with us, and that will help, raise our whole profile. And that's one of the ways that we can get, companies here and embracing Utah and our ethos, because, we think that Utah is a great place to do business. So I hope that answers the question, but we are the same organization. Our functions are very different. We try to leverage each other however we can and make the most of our resources. But we also try to stay in our own lanes and not step on each other.
Sure. Okay, that helps a lot, and I think it's a great segue to our first poll question. So if you're paying attention at home, our first question for you is, how many life science healthcare innovation companies do you think there are in Utah? You've got about 22 seconds left. Feel free to respond, and we're going to see what the audience believes is accurate. And it looks like the answer, at least the overwhelming majority at 47%, picked 1,100 companies. Katelin, how close to accurate is that?
That is the right answer.
Done. What are we even here talking about? Everybody knows everything there is to know about this. I'm kidding, obviously, because there's a lot more to know. And you started talking through what your membership looks like. Poll questions reflecting that there are 1,100 companies in the industry in Utah. Can you talk a little bit more, just like snapshot what that profile looks like, aside from all of us who would be maybe indirect members of the industry?
Yeah, so, we have, like I said, a lot of medical device companies. That is a big part of our history in Utah. We've had medical device companies here since the 50s, so we have a very storied history of life science companies. And we've had a lot of booming diagnostics and pharmaceutical companies. And now, we're seeing more digital health companies, with the convergence of, technology and biology companies. And so I think it's exciting to see, a lot of different verticals kind of popping up within Utah. And so that's exciting as well. And, very encouraging for what we will see, over the next decade. Sure.
Obviously, as the call for Biohive is to represent as a trade organization, this collective, if you will, of this hive of industry. What is Biohive doing as an initiative to attract those companies to Utah?
Sure. So like I said, half of our board are key public partners. So, two organizations that come to mind is EDC Utah. Their core focus is economic development within Utah. And so, they're really out there, focused on what companies can we bring to Utah, and then obviously, there are a lot of organizations that are working on companies that want to expand opportunities. And I think where we can really play a role is sitting alongside in those conversations where appropriate and saying, look at, the infrastructure that is here, we can plug you in and again, be a connector to resources, and help you connect you to the right people, connect you to the right, whatever your needs are, whether it's manufacturing, whether it's, contract manufacturing, lab resources, testing, maybe it's, outsourced engineering. I mean, whatever it is, and space requirements are honestly, a big issue. We get tied down because of the regulations that we are under. And so, for tenancy, once we plant down our roots, it's quite hard to move. And so, our real estate, it is a very large consideration. And, life science companies tend to really not move once they've set down roots. And that's why I think Utah really is a great place, because we have a really robust infrastructure for companies, and we are a really great place to do business. And so we have, a strong case to take to companies that are looking to move, maybe off the West Coast. Utah can be a great place to say, hey, we have land to expand to. Our new governor, wants to, he's very keen on an inland port. And so we have a lot of, I think, great opportunities that we can seize upon and say, Utah's open for business. And, these are all the reasons why we can really be the place to come to.
Troy, and in fact, I really want to throw this to both of you, but I'm gonna look at you first, Troy, as you represent the real estate industry here in Utah, and specifically now with a focus on bioscience and the biomed industry. I'm curious, where do you guys, Troy, I'll throw this to you first, and then Katelin, any follow-up you have. Where do you guys see really real estate playing a role in not only attracting new companies here, but also helping to further these initiatives with whether it's startup or whether it's the larger biotech type of companies? What sort of a role do you see real estate playing in that?
I think it's important to understand initially that we're essentially at a negative vacancy rate for lab space. If you look at the major hubs, life science hubs like San Francisco, Boston, Cambridge, and San Diego, purpose-built lab space cannot be built fast enough right now. So we have a unique opportunity to meet that demand here in Salt Lake City. It's a fantastic opportunity for us at the Gateway, really, because in many ways it's almost as though the Gateway was purpose-built to meet this requirement. But it's our speed to creating that lab space that I think gives us an edge. And as Katelin mentioned, I mean, we have the cooperation of EDC Utah and the local municipalities. So we're in a position where we can move quickly, and we already have the critical mass in this market that can attract some of those groups to Salt Lake.
Yeah, I would just second that. Lab space is a huge issue. Clean rooms. For some, startup companies that are finally trying to reach, that next level. I've talked with a couple companies recently where they're like, we're trying to a bite-size, a space off, and then, trying to move into that next level. It's really hard for them to find space. So having, being able to offer that, I think the Gateway's done a phenomenal job. Being able to say kind of, here's our menu of options, like that is, it's huge, because for a life science company having to build that, it's an exorbitant expense. If you haven't already reached, product market fit, you have, huge revenues, you're kind of humming along at mid-market, you can't afford it. For us, again, we have a low cost basis here for manufacturing, and we have room to expand. We have the ability to kind of be creative with the solutions that we can offer. Whereas if you're in California or you're in, I don't want to name names, but if you're in these other states where you're either bound with land where you don't have the ability to be creative, or you're tied down with regulations where, as Troy said, we have supportive government, we have people who want to be creative with the solutions that we can offer. And so we are very unique with both of our city and state government, where we can really get around this and say, look, how can we support the industry needs?
So I'm hearing a couple of things, and I appreciate both of your answers. I mean, it sounds like Utah, number one, we have land. We have a lot of available land, and we have space, some of which is already built. And like Troy said, somewhat purpose-built, it would seem. And we have this critical mass already of a number of these companies and facilities and the strength in this industry. I'm curious if we can drill down a little bit more to hear from both of you. I know I heard a comment that you had made, Katelin, in another conversation about how Biohive wants to be a resource for entrepreneurs who are ready to disrupt the industry, but maybe don't have the resources or don't know where to find the resources. And in particular, as we're talking about real estate, I want to hear from you what that looks like, maybe from the startup and the entrepreneur side, but then from Troy, what do you see? And Gateway is a great example of this, that we as an industry, as a real estate industry, have been able to provide as a way to answer that call for these startups and entrepreneurs. Katelin, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the exciting things that we've seen come online are, for very early entrepreneurs, the disruptors of the next generation. We have, incubators and accelerators. And so, for those really early folks, we have, the Bioinnovations Gateway. We have Altitude Labs. I think they can have up to 30 companies in their co-working space, and there's lab space. And the new therapeutics lab at the University of Utah. When those companies want to move out of those spaces and they're ready to take over their first their first space, they need their own lab. What does that look like? That's a really hard transition. That's like an oh my gosh moment. Like we're now getting it's a huge line on your P&L. It's massive. From you're sharing working space, you're sharing lab expenses. There's no way for you to retrofit something. There's no way you can take on that expense. And so there's very few areas in the city right now. There's zero occupancy to what Troy said. So you're probably waiting for somebody to move out of the space that they have. So I think, that's for sure an opportunity. And so, yeah, would love to collaborate with folks on where we could serve a need, for the little folks. And then also, like I said, the guys who are, have found a niche and are expanding, contract services or whatever their niche is, and they're needing, bigger space. Having the ability to offer, I think at every level, we definitely want to be able to work directly with, be able to, have somebody call us up and say, I need more room, I need more space. What does it look like? What's already built out? What's in the market? And say, these guys, call this office. They work, exclusively, or they work a lot with life science companies, and they can talk you through, what's available, what zoning restrictions are, what lab space is available. At what level you need, and be intelligent, be able to communicate, in the vernacular, and know what's available in your area. And this is, I'm also talking about the entire state, right? This isn't just for Salt Lake. I know a lot of our companies, work between Salt Lake and Provo, but there's a lot going on in Logan. There's a lot going on in St. George. So there's need across the state, and as we get the inland port going, and as we expand more and more, this is going to be a need for all of Utah. And so that's something, I also want to be very aware of.
Agreed. Troy, I know you're gonna concur with a lot of what Katelin said. I'm especially interested to hear, though, from you as you're talking about the gateway, and as we're talking specifically about, real estate in this industry. Talk to us about the special sauce, if you will, whatever the formula was that seemed to make the most sense for the gateway as it relates to Biohive and the industry, and what you guys are seeing that really are the solutions from a real estate standpoint.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. The special sauce is the campus. It's that campus-like setting that we have pre-built for us at the gateway. It's pretty unique, and that we have an opportunity to add lab space to a campus that exists, that doesn't have zoning restrictions and challenges with biosafety level requirements. We have a unique opportunity at the gateway to bring this lab space on at a very rapid pace. And that's the key. And Katelin touched on this, is that time. Oftentimes these researchers and life science companies are in receipt of VC funding, and the need for that additional lab space is immediate. And so what we need to be able to do is to provide a solution that is rapid, and it allows for scalability. Because as Katelin mentioned, the cost for these companies to go out and build new lab space that is purpose-built for their needs is exorbitant, and it takes time. And in an environment where perhaps the zoning doesn't exactly allow that use, or you can't reach those biosafety level requirements, you're looking at delays that could go and extend on beyond 18 months. So what we're doing at the gateway is we're offering an opportunity for lab space now, and that's the key.
Awesome. Thank you both. Good answers. And I think that's another good segue into our next poll question. So if you're in the audience, and haven't refilled your coffee, wait another 30 seconds, answer this question really quickly. What is the total number of life science healthcare innovation professionals employed in Utah? And it looks like the slight majority comes in at 55,000. So 32% of our participants think it's somewhere in the 55,000 range. Katelin, where do we fall on our results?
We are at 130,000.
130,000. So we're all short on that one.
Like I said, is backed because we have such a large manufacturing sector.
So this is I think a good point to talk a little bit more about, what the state's position, what the city especially's position has been. We all know that that Mayor Mendenhall has made it pretty clear that one of her initiatives is to continue to support what is this life science industry. And I'm curious to know if you can answer, Katelin or Troy, what the city's position, what the mayor's position on focusing on healthcare innovation as an economic development strategy looks like, and how that impacts what you're trying to do here.
Well, my colleague Clark Cahoon, sent me, his answer from the city. So I can be a proxy for Clark, but the Mayor Mendenhall is on our board at Biohive, so I can definitely say that she has been a huge support for us in life sciences and healthcare innovation. And from Clark's words, the mayor sees the elements of healthcare innovation as an anchor for economic development. And we have, a solid pipeline of companies from universities. We have large manufacturing operations like we've touched on. So having a solid healthcare provider networks, we have, we're very lucky with the hospital systems that we have here. And the jobs that are within all of this pay high wages. The life science communities pay 50% higher than the average Utah wage. So this is very sticky. As we've said, these companies don't move around. We are not picking up and taking off once we put down roots. So there are a lot of opportunities to connect people with jobs and careers in this field. So we're very fortunate to have the mayor's support, and that is why, workforce development is also one of our core initiatives at Biohive.
So I'm going to throw a curveball at both of you. I'm recognizing that neither one of you are from the governor's or the mayor's office, or even EDC Utah for that matter. But can you talk through, and again, this is to both of you, what are we seeing are incentives available currently for these sort of startups or companies looking to potentially relocate to Utah? Can you talk through what that potentially looks like as a program?
So, I know that we have, these new administrations, which are super exciting. Governor Cox has expressed a lot of support for healthcare innovation. I think that it's a very, it's on the forefront of everyone's mind, being in the middle of a pandemic. And we're excited to have his support as well. GoEd is also on our board at Biohive, and so we've had a lot of support from them. And so I expect that we will start seeing, new incentives for companies to relocate and expand. I haven't seen specifics of that, but I think that we're all really encouraged to see, healthcare innovation as a strategic core of both, state and local government. I think that we will kind of look forward to new incentives, for both larger and smaller companies as well.
The only thing I would add is that we at the Gateway are in the process of finalizing a very substantial lab addition, and part of the process was sitting down with Mayor Mendenhall and talking about ways that the Salt Lake City can assist, and she was very willing to meet with us and with this prospective tenant. And so we've had a very positive experience with the city.
So I want to again throw another curveball at you guys, and I'm looking first at you, Troy. Obviously, it feels like Biohive, and really kind of as an epicenter, Gateway has found this identity that seems to really match well with what we're seeing in this industry. But of course, we've also talked about other areas like the inland port and everything that's happening out there. Everybody here, I think, is pretty aware of what's been really probably a lot of the companies that Katelin has talked about really started and were germinating through what is the U of U's research park. And last month, or excuse me, 2 months ago, whenever it was, we had our conversation with Alan Matheson about what's happening at the Point. These are, multiple major real estate developments that are occurring right now in this, ever changing dynamic world that we call Utah. And every one of those has expressed some sort of interest and support in bioscience and biotech. And I'm just trying to get a feel from you guys where you see more interest from the user side, and where do we see these entrepreneurs wanting to go? What makes sense for them from a location and real estate standpoint?
So thanks, Josh. One thing I understand is that when you're based in a major hub like the San Francisco Bay Area, for example, you look at opportunities that are within a 2-hour time frame. So for us, that's a 2-hour flight, right? Less than a 2-hour flight, 10 minutes from the airport, you're in a lab in Salt Lake City. I mean, we have an incredible opportunity to work with those life science companies on the West Coast. There's a massive manufacturing need that is not being met in the United States. So when we're talking about pharma, we talk a lot about these life science companies who are developing these pharmaceuticals and therapeutics, but currently there's very few of those therapeutics are actually being manufactured in the United States. And that's an opportunity that I see we have here in Utah, a substantial opportunity, because again, we're talking about large facilities that require very unique zoning and again, land. And that is one thing we have in this market. And we become great contributors to these life science companies on the West Coast if we're able to provide them.
Yeah, I absolutely second, what Troy said. We have a low-cost basis for manufacturing, and we have space to expand. Those are two things that we can just beat people up with all day long. We have a talented workforce. We have supportive local government. I mean, we have a recipe for success. We also have I-80, which just goes whichever way you need to go. So we have a lot of things working in our favor. We have great infrastructure. We have the university system. We have, talented workforce. We have the Delta hub. So it's very easy for us to fly people in that need to, get here for the weekend or a week or whatever. So we have a lot of things that I think are really great and make sense, for this area, and the 2-hour, makes a lot of sense. I also think that we have great, local hubs, within the state regionally that are going to pop up and do really great things. St. George has a community that's really thriving, and they're kind of doing their own thing. And like I said, Logan. So I have a very high opinion of those communities, and I think that they're going to, come up with their own identity and really buy into that, and create some interesting technology. And I think that as a state, we're going to have a lot of diversity and a rich fabric that we can really feed off of each other and help with, our technology and innovation. So I think it's exciting. And I think that, we've had a lot of pieces here for 60 years, and we're really reaching the point now where we can, take off to the next level.
Let me ask you this. obviously, I just mentioned a couple of large real estate developments. You just talked, Katelin, about St. George. We know Gateway is really kind of, again, this epicenter. A good question just came in. Can you identify, do bioscience, biotech, life science users prefer a more of an urban setting, or are they more inclined to a rural setting? Does that matter? Is it more based on the use, or are they just totally agnostic?
So I think it depends on, probably the subsector and, what they're doing, their needs. So I think that it probably depends. I'm just looking at the question here right now. So, I think it could probably depend. And I think that's probably I'm not dodging the question. I think it's probably like all of the above. We have needs in all of those spaces.
Sure.
So, like the Gateway is awesome. Like I think that campus is fantastic. I also think that we're going to set up lots of space in rural areas. There's a huge need. We can retrain people, pop them into high-paying jobs, and pump out lots of life-saving devices and drugs and all kinds of stuff that we can make here with innovations that we can, come up with in state from our universities and companies. So I think it's an all of the above answer.
Sure. I think Troy, and I'm going to throw this one back to you. You mentioned just this idea of a critical mass in Utah at kind of the macro level. Obviously, for what we're seeing at the Gateway and what's being achieved there, there's more of this micro level of critical mass and this ability for all of these companies to really kind of create this energy and the synergy in this one location. Do you see that sort of an energy as being, I mean, it seems obvious, but does that feel like an advantage to especially some of these startups and entrepreneurs who are really getting into the industry, to be able to not be in that sort of close, capacity?
Right. Absolutely. One of the key components to the success of life science companies is bumpability. It's a term they use where you're essentially running into other researchers throughout the day, right? If I'm at the Gateway and I go shopping at the store, I might run into a researcher in a neighboring lab, and we might talk about what we're working on. There's a lot of collaboration and sharing that goes on in this industry, and so that's the primary reason why these campus settings are so popular.
Which makes a ton of sense for the Gateway, right, and everything that's happening there. And I think another good segue into poll question number 3. So if we can cue that up, anybody who's paying attention, here is poll question number 3. What is Utah's total GDP from the life science healthcare innovation industry? I think this was mentioned, so kudos to those of you who have paid attention so far. Is it 25, 20, 13, 11, or $5 billion? And it looks like most people believe it was 13 billion. How accurate are they, Katelin?
13.
Yeah. Which kudos to the audience. I think you guys are paying attention, and that all obviously is because of Katelin and Troy. So well done, everybody involved in that. Katelin, really quick, we're gonna segue here more into a little bit real estate specific stuff, including the Gateway. But I want to know what's just happening industry wide. Like what's new, what's exciting, what's such a match for Utah and life sciences and all of the what we can expect in the future here.
Yeah, well, I touched on it, but the things that kind of I just can't get over is that I think we are seeing a more robust ecosystem for our entrepreneurs, and that manifests with these accelerators and incubators. So we have Altitude Labs up in Research Park. Like I said, they have space for 30 companies with a fantastic lab space, and we have this new therapeutics incubator at the University of Utah. So, and then the Bio Innovations Gateway has lab space there. And, I find that having a robust entrepreneurial ecosystem in that way for founders really will allow us to start seeing more companies spin out, which again will allow us to see more technology and more new entrants. And we need to have that pipeline. That's what will allow us to see more innovation and more companies start reaching the next BioFire, the next Recursion, the next big company that could come out of Utah and become, that next mid-market company, the next company that goes public, that needs, some huge office space, some new big retrofit. So I'm excited to see that. I think that's, you need to have that to really have a big ecosystem. And so it's exciting to see that. It's exciting to see the investment, the mentorship. It's also a great way for us to get attention from investors, both in and out of state. And so that's, I think, a really sign of health and also just a really fun way to see, innovation. So I think it's really great.
Awesome. Troy, before you answer, I do have to say, I think the term bumpability is really the one I'm going to pull away from this entire conversation is really what's interesting for some of these users in the real estate space. So, and with that, I want to kick off the next part of this conversation with the Gateway video. So everybody, pay attention. Let's see a little bit more about what's happening, what's exciting about Gateway.
Primely located in the heart of downtown Salt Lake City is the Gateway, a dynamic mixed-use lifestyle destination that is at the epicenter of Salt Lake City's rapidly emerging healthcare corridor, the Biohive. Representing the innovative life science and digital health sectors of Utah's economy, the Biohive includes more than 1,000 companies in the space of biopharmaceuticals, medical devices, diagnostics, genomics, biotechnology, health and tech, and digital informatics, attracting a diverse and highly educated workforce from all over the country. With this unparalleled investment in technology and innovation, Utah now leads the nation in growth in the life sciences and digital health sectors and joins high-tech companies like Adobe, Facebook, Amazon, and Microsoft that have made the move to this dynamic, business-friendly haven. This is just part of the reason why the nation's best talent calls Salt Lake City home, with its low cost of living and being only minutes from some of the world's best outdoor recreation. The Gateway sits at the center of it all, connected by direct freeway and commuter rail access, making it easy to get where you need to go when you need to get there. Boasting nearly 1.5 million square feet in the heart of downtown, the Gateway offers a unique blend of shopping and dining with the city's first food hall, Hall Pass, and some of the city's best entertainment destinations with tenants like Dave & Buster's, The Depot by Live Nation, Clark Planetarium, and downtown Megaplex Theaters. The Gateway also hosts a full calendar of community-driven events and festivals, all with the backdrop of an expansive outdoor gallery with installations from artists all over the world. Urban living has never been easier, with over 5,000 modern living spaces within 3 city blocks. And coming soon to the historic Union Pacific Train Depot, a 4-star, 225-room boutique hotel. The Biohive is already bolstered by an impressive and synergistic community of tech-driven tenants like Recursion Pharmaceuticals, Artemis Health, and Kiln's co-working space. And the Gateway offers dynamic, collaborative, and inspired workspaces with unique zoning to accommodate both office and lab space. With safety in mind, the entire environment has been reimagined. The Gateway offers fully customizable floor plans with direct escalator access and private in-suite restrooms, all to keep the high-touch areas to a minimum. Each space is designed to be seamlessly retrofitted with antimicrobial air filters, proactively purifying both the air and surfaces. Dedicated to keeping open-air common areas clean and safe, hand sanitizer stations have been installed throughout the property. And the frequent cleaning schedule includes a state-of-the-art electrostatic sprayer that kills 99.9% of viruses, including COVID-19. The Gateway is a thriving community where lifestyle meets life science, offering not only the ideal blend of live, work, and play, with unsurpassed services and amenities, but also the perfect place for any business to invest, innovate, and succeed. Come see for yourself how the Biohive at the Gateway sits at the center of everything you need to drive your venture forward. It's the perfect place to grow.
That's awesome. I don't know how you guys anybody can watch these videos and not be inspired. And I lightly mentioned that bumpability is a term I'm going to take away from this conversation, but so too is just this idea of the critical mass that we're seeing in Utah. I want to talk a little bit, Troy, about, we mentioned the secret sauce of the Gateway, and everybody here locally, especially in the real estate world, understands where the Gateway was and where it's come since it was originally conceptualized. I don't know that many of us saw it taking shape the way it has and repositioning itself, but it seems to have been a really great fit. And so can you dive in a little bit more about, the details, not just of the Gateway, but as a formula that makes sense for the Gateway that can be applied to other campuses or other locations for the benefit of this industry?
Sure. Yeah. Thanks, Josh. Well, I first want to apologize to anyone who's trying to buy sporting goods at Dick's Sporting Goods. It's not there anymore. We went a different direction. You're going to be disappointed if you try to shop at Abercrombie and Victoria's Secret as well, but for good reason. We're thrilled with the shape that the Gateway is taking, and I can't say it enough. I honestly feel like this project is perfect for this requirement. That secret sauce, that campus, it exists within the Gateway. We don't have the impeding factors that would prohibit us from building lab space at the Gateway. Obviously, the zoning works in our favor. That bumpability is there. We've got restaurants and bars and entertainment, and we're in close proximity to Vivint Smart Home Marina. We have covered parking. We check all the boxes, and so it's really exciting. If you can't tell, I'm thrilled to not be on a call talking about why we can't get home improvement in downtown Salt Lake City, right? I'm done talking about retail for right now. Let's talk about life sciences. This is exciting.
Right. Katelin, I'm assuming you concur with what Troy said. I think, it's especially with this audience and trying to understand what made so much sense with the Gateway as compared to what we understand to be the needs of these users. How do we replicate that? What does that look like if we don't already have a built campus like the Gateway, which was both fortuitous, but also took a lot of thought in just the repositioning of that. So how do we as a real estate industry try to figure out a solution for the same sort of formula and replicate that success?
Yeah, I think that there is something unique about being in close proximity, having that cool urban environment. I have young kids. I think it will be very fun to be able to take my young boys down to where science is done and get a coffee and walk around and look through the windows and see labs and see cool stuff. They will have no idea what's going on, but it's a way to inspire, the future kids, to get them involved. That's also a big part of, what we need. And it's part of Biohive's mission too. Is part of that workforce development is getting kids, into the pipeline. So the Gateway serves a purpose for us too, in being able to, take school groups through there and say, look, kids, science is real. It's not just molecules, and it is, but we can make it more tangible and we can tell a story around it. And so for us, that's a really big win. And it helps to have it in this urban yuppie environment where we can, it's cool and you can sit outside in a beanbag or, whatever. But it brings it into a cool environment downtown, and you can go grab lunch and all that. And so I do think there's a big factor there that helps. It also is really great to have companies just co-located. There is something to be said for just kind of running into folks that are working on cool stuff in the same type of field. Even if they're working in different fields, having scientists running into each other, grabbing lunch, walking around on breaks, being able to just run ideas past each other. There's always a great there's a lot of benefit there. And so even if it's not the same formula, being able to have companies, in the same block, in the same couple of blocks, I'm gonna, walk down the block to, whatever company and, talk to my colleague and maybe they could help me work through this idea. Or there's a lot to that. And I think it's great. And I think it's awesome that, we're making, this a priority and trying to put it in the forefront of people's minds and brand it in a specific way. So those are, my thoughts. And I think from the layperson's perspective as well, it brings it on their radar and makes it part of our identity as Salt Lake, that it is one of our, main industries as well.
Sure. Okay, guys, we're at 3 minutes and I've got a couple of questions we're going to try and squeeze in there. So consider this rapid fire. Really quickly, tell me if you can, and this is not a quick question, so do your best, but how are landlords underwriting the credit worthiness of startup companies or companies coming out of incubators, especially considering the cost of creating a lab space?
I can address that. There are a few landlords who really fully understand, these life science companies and the way they operate. So many struggle. They really do, because of the substantial capital contribution required to create lab space. So that's a real issue in this industry. And another advantage that we have at the Gateway, where the owners, Vestar and their capital partner Oaktree, understand what it takes to create lab space. There's significant costs associated with that. And obviously, when you're underwriting a lab deal, Katelin mentioned this. These are very sticky deals, so you're committing some significant capital, but you're also expecting a nice long return on that investment.
Awesome. Katelin, I'm going to throw the last one to you really quickly. Of the 1,100 life science companies here in Utah, what percentage of those are companies that have relocated from other areas in the country versus those that started here locally?
I don't have that exact data. I would have to get back to you on that, but I can say that we are open for business. We should just put a big sign on I-80. Have people redirect, get off, and they can just. I'd say that Utah's a great place to work, live, and play. And I know that your participants know that, but Biohive's here to share the message.
Appreciate that, and I think that at the end of the day, we all buy into that, like you said. And I think you probably could have told us any number as long as it was aggressively in the affirmative, and we would have bought that because that's what's happening in this industry, particularly. Definitely in the life sciences and the biosciences, but also just across the industry. It's an exciting time to be a part of a variety of things that are happening here, from, an audience that is specific to the real estate world. It's really exciting to be able to be a part of informing a variety of other industries and being able to be a resource for that. So I guess if there is one last thing that both of you could leave, a 30-second plug for the real estate industry and how they can continue to benefit the life science and bioscience world, what would that be?
I would just say that, these are great partnerships to have with life sciences. Like I said, when you partner with a life science company, we get tied down for our own regulatory reasons, and they're long-term partners. I think these are good companies to invest in because they're going to be here for a long time. It's an expanding, recession-proof industry you're investing into with long-term growth. The pandemic, has brought that to the forefront of our mind. This is an industry that's going to get us ready for the next health crisis. So, we're not going away. We're only growing, and we need partners to help us do all of this.
Awesome. Troy, last words?
Yeah, the train is leaving the station. Get on. Life sciences are here, and it's not just a product of this pandemic. This is real, and as Katelin mentioned, science is cool again. I wish I could put a beaker here next to me. I think I'd look cooler on this call. But yeah, this is really exciting.
I don't know that you guys could look any cooler than you do today. So thank you both for all of your input. It was great to talk to you. It was good to learn a little bit more about this. For all of you in the audience, apologize if we weren't able to get to all of your questions, but we are at time. There was a question about the presentation, the video. It will be available via NAIOP Utah's website. So watch for a link to that. You'll be able to see the event as well as the videos for both the Gateway and Biohive. And if with their permission, I think we can probably also provide some direct links to those videos if Katelin and Troy deem it worthwhile. So appreciate everybody's involvement today. Appreciate everybody that sponsored the event and those of you who have participated both as panelists and as an audience. We appreciate all of you. So thank you very much for your time and look forward to continuing the conversation. Thanks, guys.